We're preparing the surface with what we call a diamond grinding pad here, basically. So this is what we call a metal bond diamond. This is a double segment, meaning each diamond has two segments to it. And depending on the concrete, that's going to determine or dictate the grit or the roughness or the coarseness of the diamond that's used. In this case, we're using an 80 grit metal bond diamond, and it's more than sufficient for profiling the concrete here. Now, if we had harder concrete, we may need to drop down a grit, say 40 grit metal bond diamond for more aggressive cutting. But what this grit is doing is it's providing us with a surface of a rough concrete surface profile of about 4, which is good for the thickness of the mill thickness that we're going to go over the top of. So this grit, which is an 80 grit on somewhat soft concrete, is exposing all of the sands and some of the coarse aggregate that you see here. So once the grinding is complete, what we'll do is we'll vacuum up all of the dust particulate, the residue that's left behind on the surface. And then what I like to do, just for insurance, is I'll run the auto scrubber with clean water and a scrubbing bristle just to scrub that up and vacuum that out, just to get any remaining dust particulate that's down in the pores of the concrete. And then that leaves us with a super clean surface, enabling us to go on to our next step, which, depending on what you're using, is to prime the surface. So let me demonstrate how this works. As I mentioned, it has a grinding width of roughly 20 inches wide, so it's easy to get into doorways and kitchens, bathrooms, things of that nature. Where the machine won't get into, you'll have to hand tool up around edges, for example, with a hand grinder. Now, this piece of equipment does require 220 single-phase power. So most of your electrical boxes that are wired for, say, a dryer, you can hot wire into the breaker box. And if that's not an option, you can certainly rent a generator that has a sufficient amount of power for that. So we're going to hook up our dust extractor. That's really important when you're working inside someone's home, is that you have to contain all of the airborne dust particulate. Number one, it's harmful to breathe. It's not good for you. And number two, you just can't contaminate all of the surrounding areas. Certainly you don't want to have any dust get into any of the HVAC systems. That could be a disaster. All right, give me 1 second. We're going to turn our shop back on, and then we'll start our grinding process. Okay,